Hello, today I'm going to give you a brief overview of the reporting tool. Once logged into the system, if we click the reports link, we can then start to design a new report. You can see on this screen that there has been no previous reports defined, so we're starting from absolute scratch. There are two ways of implementing a report. I'll show both. In the first instance, you are provided with a listing of all tables and views that can be selected to create a report. I'm going to select the Issues table, and you can see that once I've selected this, that some other tables are highlighted and some other tables have been greyed out. The ones that have been highlighted are the ones that the tool believes it can join to based on common column names. So in this instance, I'm going to join to the Locations table, and you can see in turn more tables become available to choose from. Now that I have these two tables selected, I want to add fields to report on, so I'm going to continue to the Fields section. As you can see, we have a series of tabs along the top, which in turn we will come to. We are currently in the Fields tab, and in the drop-down boxes you can see the two tables I have selected and the columns that each table has. So I'm going to base this first report on a location name and also on the date the issues were created. So at this point in time, I'm just going to preview this report to show how it is initially displayed. You can see a list of location names down the left hand side, and in the right hand column there is the date that issues have been created. You can see that these are quite common. We have multiple instances of dates. And this is the most basic report that we can produce, and initially I'm going to save it because I'm going to build upon it as I go through this presentation. I'm going to name this Events by Location. We can apply a category to the report. Isn't currently any categories being defined, so I'm going to just create one just called Event. If I return to the reporting home page, we can see the events folder has now been created, and within it there is the Events by Location report. Three icons here. One is to delete the report, one is to edit the report, and one is to view the report. So I wish to continue editing the report, so I'll click on the center icon. You will have noticed that when we viewed the report that the description at the top of each column defaulted to the name that we selected in the Fields tab. To make it more user friendly, we can overtype these and we can preview it. As you can see, the headings now show location and date created. As I've noticed, as I said earlier, you can see that dates have defaulted in for the events. We will now group these together to give figures for each of the locations that we're reporting on. When I run the report now, the report should show us the location, the date created, and the number of records for each location and date. Just to aid formatting, I don't want to show any decimal places, so I'm going to change the format on the count column . As you can see, we have now grouped the locations and the dates and the number of records that were created on that date. Returning to the Fields tab, we can also determine how we want the report sorted. So we can sort on location name, date created, or count. As you can see now, the report is ordered alphabetically by the first column. By clicking on the column header, we can sort it descending. Clicking on the date created column will sort it by date, either ascending or descending, and clicking on the count column will do the same, sort it either ascending or descending. We can reduce the amount of data displayed by applying a filter to the report. In this case, I'm going to apply a filter based on the date created. Clicking on the operators drop down, you can see that there are various filters that can be applied to the report. As this is a date field, I'm going to filter it on 2 dates. As you can now see, there is only a subset of data that is being displayed. This is the most basic type of report that can be produced using this tool. As I previously mentioned, there's 2 ways to create a report, this being the first of them. I will now go on to show you how to create a report using the second option. If I return to the report list, we can see that the report I've just created still exists, and now I will add a second report. Once again, we are provided with a list of all the views and tables that can be used for reporting purposes. There is a limitation to this because it tries to match based on common column names between tables. The alternative way to create a report is by clicking on the Advanced tab down at the bottom. Here you are provided with a drop down of all the tables and views. It's an intelligent drop down, so if you begin typing, it will shorten the list. Again, I'm going to use the issues and the locations tables to create a report. You can see to the right of the table name an icon where you can add additional tables to the report. And you can see that the tool has joined these two tables together based on location ID. One of the benefits of using this screen is that on the right hand side we have another drop down which allows us to do various SQL joins between the tables. I will be using this feature shortly. Before I go any further, I'm going to save this report. Oh, before I do so, I need to select a few fields. Once again, I will use location name, creation date, issue ID. I'm going to change the column headings to be something more meaningful. I'm now going to preview the report to make sure that the changes I've just applied have worked. And once again, I'm going to save the report. I'm going to enhance this report to include the priority that has been applied to it. So returning to the Fields tab, in fact, returning to the Data Sources tab, I need to add an additional table, and do so by clicking on the drop-down icon on the right-hand side. You can see that the tool has tried to join the lookups table to the location table based on the active column. I don't want to use the locations table. I want to use the issues table, and I want to join them together using priority. Because the issues table may not have a priority attached to it, I need to change the type of join. So I'm going to change it to a left outer join. and I'm going to add an additional column from the lookups table that will show you the description. It's possible to move columns up and down so you can get them displayed in whichever order you require by clicking on the very last icon and lifting them to where you want them to display. You can now see that the column priority is displayed, and for cases where priority has been entered, it is now shown on the screen. I'm now going to apply a date filter to the report. We can add additional filters to the report by clicking on the Filters tab. In this instance, I'm going to apply a filter based on the location name. The filter defaults to this ellipsis, these three dots, and if you select that one and preview the report, it will display for all locations. If I then select one item and preview, it will just return data for that item. You don't have to limit it to one item. You can actually use it as a multiple selection. So you can see we now have both North and Central displayed in the report. Returning to the Fields tab, we have this concept of a visual group, and this affects how the report will be displayed. You can now see that the two areas, Central and North, have got a distinct heading, and we have lost the first column that had the name in it. It is possible to add summary totals to the bottom of each of these groups by simply selecting the Fields tab and clicking on Add Subtotals. As you can see now, at the bottom of both, we have a subtotal. Returning to the Fields tab, there are more options that can be used to affect the display of the report. On the right hand side, we have this Advanced Fields Settings icon with numerous functions in. If initially you wanted the report to order descending, sort Z to A. If you want labels justified, left, right, middle. Same with values. Subreports is used if you embed one report within another report. This would be the report that you were embedding. And if you had an embedded report, you can choose how it would display when you clicked on the link. It is possible to add color coding to the report to highlight specific fields. This becomes very useful if you have reports that are of the type of red, amber, green, where things coming towards a specific deadline need to be shown up. As you can see, everything below the aqua colour is now highlighted. If we change the range on it, and preview, you can see that some are now aqua and some are now red. It is possible to add a summary report within the main report. First of all, I'm going to select all the areas that we're reporting on and preview that. If I click on the Summary tab, I can add a title, I can determine which fields I would like to summarize. You can now see that we have a summary report for each area at the very top, and that the figures 28 would match the summary ones for each, or should I say would match the subtotals for each of the areas below. It is possible to embed charts within the report. There are 5 chart types that are supported. I'm not going to demonstrate all 5, but I will show you how to use a bar chart and also a trend. I've selected the date that events were created, and I'm going to group them by the year and month that they were created in. As you can see, we now have a bar chart embedded into the report. We can enhance this to break it down into more detail and highlight the areas that the events were created in. If I return to the Chart tab and select the Advanced Properties button, I can then separate the totals out based upon the locations. As you can see, we now have colour coding to identify each of the areas that the events were created in. If we return to the Charts tab, we can increase the size of the chart or decrease the size of the chart. I'm now going to add a second chart to the report. This time it is going to be a trend report. As you can now see, we now have 2 charts embedded in the report, a summary report and the detailed information that the charts, the summary, is based upon. The trend report is just showing totals at present, and like we did with the bar chart, we can enhance it to give more detailed information. as you can now see, we now have it broken out by the areas, and it also shows the trends for each area over a period of time. In addition, we can add gauges to the report. We have now extended the report to have two charts, a bar chart, a trend line, and now you can see we have gauges to represent each of the locations. The items within the miscellaneous tab enable you to enhance how the report is displayed. As you can now see, we have a report's title and a brief description of what the report includes. There are other areas we could add text to: the report header, the page header, or the footer. Also, there's a security element to it with who you can share the report with and what they can see and what they can do with the report. It is also possible to schedule the report to run and also to email a link to recipients for them to be able to open the report. As I mentioned earlier, it is possible to embed one report within another report. And if you were to do this, you would need to select this drill down key in the sub-report. Whichever key you select must exist in both the parent report and the child report. Finally, I'll talk briefly about the Style tab, as this also affects the appearance of the report. It allows you to change some of the default settings. If I preview the report, we can see the order it is currently in and how it is grouped within these visual groups. First of all, if I change the visual group style to one of the other ones, and scroll down to the bottom, you can see that the format changes, and you can expand and condense each of the areas within a visual group. If I want to change the order the report is displayed, I can move information up and down, and when I rerun the report, you will see that the display has changed. We now have the bar chart at the top, followed by the gauges, followed by the trend line, and at the very bottom we have the visual groupings of the raw data.